good afternoon, and you've tuned into ET now, and this is Market Fatafat with me, Cheryl D'Souza, and along with me I have Avan Dupash as well as Vinny Motiwala joining us. Good afternoon to you ladies. But before we go on and get going with the show and all the stocks that are buzzing, let's talk about Maruti Suzuki. That particular counter is in focus. Remember, all the auto companies that come out with their sales for the month of June. But what's the booking number looking like for Breza? What's the outlook for the petrol cars, the small cars and the SUV segment? To talk more on that, we are joined by Shashank Srivastava, who is the Senior Executive Director of Marketing and Sales at Maruti Suzuki. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Srivastava. Thank you so much for joining us on ET now. And let's talk about June sales and productions. Numbers, they were actually impacted due to the plant shutdown. But going forward, what sort of situation are you seeing with regards to the shortage in the semiconductor front? And do you have any visibility on your production levels as well? Can we expect the numbers to see better up move going ahead?
Yeah, so on the chip shortage front, things have got better. In fact, if you remember, the bottom was in September last year when we could produce only 40% of our plan. And it improved subsequently. Of course, in October, it was about 60%, November, 85%, December, 90%, Jan, Feb, March, about 92%. And April, May, June has been about 94, 95%. So we have seen a constant improvement, although I must say we haven't reached 100%. And it's difficult for me to point out an exact timeline for when we will reach 100%. It's quite a complex global supply chain which is involved, affecting not only Maruti but all OEMs, not just in India, across the globe. Therefore, while things are improving, and I suppose it will keep improving from here, hopefully we should come to a normal operation after a few months.
Afternoon, Mr. Srivastava. Now, you said that Breza has got over 40,000 bookings in just a matter of 8 days. So what kind of production capacity are you working with? And what's the plan to scale up, given the fact that you've seen such a great response?
So for the bookings, actually, it's only 8 days since we started the booking. And that figure has crossed 50,000 now. I was looking at the figure today morning, and it's 50,000 plus. Normally, we are making about 10,000 to 11,000 Brezas a month, and that means the waiting period of roughly 4.5, 5 months. However, we can increase the production going forward, and that's what we are trying to do, so as to reduce the waiting period, which has suddenly built up within 8 days of the booking.
Good afternoon, Mr. Srivastava. This is Vinny joining in as well. I want to talk about which markets are you getting the most response from for Breza? Is that tier 2, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities? Which geographies?
Actually, it's quite secular in the Breza response. So it's a great response in tier 1 and tier 2 cities as well. And in that sense, Breza, even the earlier version, was not only a city-centric vehicle. It has that undertone of urban, hot and techie car, as we call it. But the response has been equally good, even in tier 2 cities. So overall, I think the secular response does help us a lot, because it broad bases the market and therefore helps us in achieving the overall numbers. And that is reflected in the bookings that we see so far.
Mr. Srivastava, Maruti has actually been at the forefront when it comes to CNG launches. You've come out with excellent product lineup when it comes to CNG cars, and you also have healthy order book in that particular segment as well. Are we likely to see any more new product addition in the CNG segment? Also, will you get Breza in a CNG variant as well?
CNG, we have seen some phenomenal response in the last couple of years. Even, in the pending 300,000 odd bookings that we have today, we have about 130,000 of CNG vehicles. So CNG, there is a lot of waiting. In fact, if you look at the overall waiting while it's there, and it varies model to model. Specifically for CNG vehicles, it's even higher. And therefore, while in CNG, we have 9 out of our 15 models which have CNG, we have plans to introduce more models with CNG. However, at this time, we have, while we have done the development work for the models, The exact timeline of introduction hasn't been finalized because we are still trying to increase the production of CNG availability so that we can serve the customers who are already made our bookings. So first we have to bring down the waiting period before we introduce CNG in more new models. But as I said, we have plans to introduce CNG in the other models as well.
I'm sure the market wants to know, and we're curious to get your take on the 6 airbag rule. Brezza has this feature. Do you think that in the upcoming launches as well, we're going to see 6 airbags? And what really is the strategy when it comes to small cars? Because Maruti has been talking about that shift to the SUV segment from small cars. Is that going to play out?
Yeah, so interesting question, and let me clarify. For Maruti Suzuki, safety is a very, very high priority. In fact, it has always been. We have all our products meet all the regulations of the government. In fact, we go beyond that. And you mentioned Breza, rightly so. Breza, we have 20 plus safety features. It's based on that Suzuki tech platform, which gives a very high torsional rigidity, and it's very reliable and known across the world. And it has 6 airbags, as you rightly pointed out, but also has a host of other 20 plus safety features, including the HUD, which is the head-up display, or the 360 view camera, which is not there in any vehicle in this category, in this segment in the industry. So apart from that, of course, it has the EBD, the ESC with the hill hold resist. It even has the ISOFIX. So I think it is a very, very safe vehicle. And that goes in line with our philosophy of producing vehicles going beyond the safety regulations, not just the prescribed safety regulations. And we will continue to meet whatever regulations are there in the industry. As far as your question on shift from small cars is concerned, let me tell you, small cars, if you are meaning hatches are still 40% of the market, which is a volume of about just under, I'm talking of last year's volume, just under 12 lakh. SUVs are just above 12 lakh. So still, it's a huge and a substantial market where we have almost 70% market share. So we will continue to focus on the small cars, and this is one of the while we strengthen our SUV portfolio.
Okay, and lastly, could you just tell us about the next product launch, and when can we expect that coming out anytime soon, and more details on that?
Yeah, so I may not be able to give you the timeline for all our product launches, but as I said, in the non-SUV category, we have 65% plus market share, which is the highest we have had for the last 20 years. But when you combine it with SUVs, the market share falls below 50%. And SUVs, we have just 2 out of 48 in the industry. So there is a need to strengthen our portfolio in the SUV segment. We have the new Breza in the entry SUV segment, and it is the market leader there. But it is the mid SUV segment, which is the other largest component of the overall SUV market. Almost 80% of the 18% of the industry is mid SUV. And therefore, our next launch will be in the mid SUV category, a larger SUV, which we should be unveiling on the 20th of July, very shortly. And that would have 2 powertrains. We'll have a mild hybrid powertrain and a strong hybrid powertrain coupled with a K15 gasoline engine.
Okay, Mr. Srivastava, thank you so much for joining with us on the show today.